Linda Isla.
Are you
Yes,
waiting for us to say something?
there will be advance notice.
Of at least a week instead of 3 days.
We typically, in fact, we always go through a procedure where we have public hearings and when we do things by ordinance. We have, certainly the second reading is done by, public hearing. Things that involve land use, get public hearing, et cetera. Okay. There are also times when things are done in executive session.
Mhm.
Okay.
We know that.
Right. So
We don't like that, but we know that.
no formal action is taken in executive session. You understand? Any formal action is done in public.
Mhm.
So if we decide to, whatever, spend money on something or change taxes or change the parking laws, that's all done in
Put
public.
in a campground, put in a new road, whatever.
Okay, okay. So I think you've gotten an answer.
Well, I want to hear this, whatever's supposed to happen.
No, you've heard what's going to happen. We're going to, if this progresses down to where it's time for public hearing, then we'll give notice and you'll have a chance to come in and hear and talk about it.
How much notice, John?
Yeah, so Denise will call and let you know.
Well, but I'd like to know approximately, more than 3 days. So we want at least a week and 3 days.
We'd like to be here.
Yeah, we'd like to be, other people go out of town besides the city attorney.
Okay,
So we have that on record that we want more than 3 days. We would like at least a week, possibly 2 weeks more than 3 days notice.
I have another question, Renee.
okay, go ahead, yeah.
Was whatever this is that can't be discussed brought up at a prior council meeting that I
Got
have
it
no aware,
to
but
this point?
it says here that there was a response from property owners.
It
I'm
was-
just
it was-
wondering,
It was brought up in an executive session, yes.
executive session. but
Yeah.
When were property owners interacted with? I mean, was that something that's happened recently? Because I
Or in the
certainly didn't
last
know about
year,
it.
in the last 6 months, when did that happen?
In the last couple of weeks, I think,
Really?
well, it'd been second or third week in April, I think. That's when we discussed an executive session. So I guess it was probably about 2 weeks after that, that they contacted me. So,
The property owners contacted you.
yes, they were curious as to if council was going to take any action or discuss it further, so.
So I
So I
know
can't-
both of these property owners. I'm sorry.
No, and
It has been discussed in council, in
Exactly.
that's what I meant when I said it had been discussed in executive session by city council. Okay? That's what it
Oh,
means.
John, please be polite.
Yes, yes.
just
Thank you.
trying to be
Well, I
clear in
think-
my own mind as to who initiated contact with property owners, what property owners. This is not a
Okay.
mystery. If you have a response from property owners, I certainly wasn't asked for my input. I would
Okay.
just like to know what portion of our population in the city were asked for their interaction or their response to whatever this mystery proposal is.
The property owner asked me what city council thought.
2 property owners?
One property owner talked to me.
One property
Yeah.
owner, it says property owners here regarding a proposal.
Right.
So is it more than one property owner that you interacted with about this proposal?
No,
No, really? It wasn't Jenkins and Walton?
okay,
I know
Okay.
you can't say.
right. So
But
you
we
know
know.
that. So, okay, we told you that we'll give you advance notice if it can be discussed in public.
You trust that?
No.
Fine.
Thank you so much, all of you.
Yep.
As usual.
Thank you. Okay, did we have anybody else who wanted to speak to a non-agenda item? Okay. Okay. Let's move on then. Consent calendar, we've got 5 items on it tonight. The first is presentation of warrants. The second is approval of the city council regular meeting minutes for May 7th, 2024. Third is approve a memorandum of understanding with Creative Alliance Manitou Springs, also known as Crane, requesting approval to purchase a Bobcat UW56. And fifth, the Manitowoc Pikes Peak Cog Railway excise tax refund payment process, and that's also known as the amusement tax. So if any council member would like to pull an item off and discuss it separately, we can do that. And I would mention that Ralph Rutten had planned to be here. I think he's running late. So if anyone has questions for Ralph, he will be here a little later. Anyway, I would, if anyone wants to pull some off, we can, or we can, I would accept a motion to approve and accept the consent calendar. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Julie?
I'd like to pull F5.
Okay, F5 is removed and will be discussed separately. Do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar items 1 through 4 as a group?
I'll move to approve items 1 through 4.
Okay,
I'll second that.
okay, we have a motion and a second to approve items 1 through 4 of the consent calendar. Any further discussion? If not, let's vote.
Counselor Johnson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Counselor Chandler?
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously.
Okay, great. Thank you. So items 1 through 4 are approved. And now we'll discuss the Manitowoc Pikes Peak Cog Railway excise tax refund payment process. We have our finance director, Becca Davis, here. And Julie, you had a question, so why don't you take the floor? Oh, I'm sorry. Julie, I'm sorry. Yes. You.
Okay, thank you. With respect to the portion of the memo under the heading of background, I believe that section is misleading or at least incorrect. And I believe the way that we can correct it is, is by adding the, that's in the agreement. Oh, that's the agreement. It's, what's that? Sorry about that. Okay, I just wanted to add a sentence from the actual agreement to the paragraph under the subheading of background in Becca's memo that says that the agreement is, and I'm quoting from the contract or the MOU or whatever you want to call it. This agreement is specifically subject to annual appropriation by the city of sufficient funds to pay the excess excise tax, comma, any other reimbursements under section 5 of this agreement, comma, taxes reimbursed as provided and so forth for the rest of that sentence that's in the contract. Because without that, it's incorrect. It says this has to be done and Becca has to make the payments. And I think it should say, no, it's illegal for Becca to pay a penny more than what's been specifically approved by the city as indicated in the contract.
Rebecca Davis, Finance Director. Yes, I'll add that sentence.
Great, thanks.
So basically, you're just going to add section 15 out of the agreement. Okay, thank you.
It's on page 5. Yeah.
Okay. Just for my benefit, we walk through that. Just if you, I think we're looking at Becca's memo or Becca's text in the memo, and then the reference was section 15 in the actual agreement. So,
We're not referenced.
or this.
I didn't want it to say, please refer to page 5, section 15 of the contract. I wanted it to say, to actually take the sentence and stick it in there about mandatory appropriation by the city.
Okay. All right. That's what I was
Because if
thinking.
it said like, oh, if you want more information, look at page 5 of the MOU. I didn't think that would be good.
Okay. That's what I thought you were getting. I just, I
Oh.
was a little fuzzy on that. Sorry.
Okay.
So I
Thanks.
benefited from the explanation. What would you like to state that as a motion?
Okay.
I'm sorry. Okay, maybe we need to walk through this again too. So was it in the original agreement, did you say that was paragraph 15?
Yes, section 15.
Section 15, okay, so do you happen to have the page number there?
I can read the actual language into the record so that it's not vague. I would like the following added to the background section of Becca's memo as follows. This agreement, and I'm starting, by the way, after the first comma, otherwise it makes no sense. This agreement is specifically subject to annual appropriation by the city of sufficient funds to pay the excess excise tax and comma, and other reimbursements under section 5 of this agreement, comma, or use taxes reimbursed as provided by this agreement, period. In the event that appropriation of sufficient funds is not made in any year, resulting in the inability of the city to pay excess excise tax, comma, any other reimbursements under section 5 of the, and it should say of the MOU instead of this agreement, or comma, or reimbursed use tax hereunder, comma, the city shall not be obligated to make payment of the non-appropriation amounts in such year. This shall not be construed as creating a debt or liability owed by the city to owner. Close quote.
I'll ask Judith, Natalie, were you able to follow along with that? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure you're clear on that. Okay, so do we all understand what Julie's proposing here?
Yes.
Okay,
I'll second that we add that to the memo.
okay, let's see.
Yeah, actually, I didn't say the word motion, so thank you. I move that following language be incorporated into Becca's memo in the background section.
Okay, and John, you're seconding it? Okay. I think we have a pretty clear understanding what we want to do here. Council clear on that? Okay, any further discussion? Yeah, let's go ahead and vote. Councilor Chandler, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilor Johnson?
Aye.
Thank you.
Let me vote, but I vote yes.
Okay,
Motion carries unanimously.
okay, great. Okay, thanks, Becca. It's good. I mean, I think that was probably good housekeeping. Good. All right, so that concludes our business on the consent calendar. Presentation then, we have presentation G2, tram presentation. I believe Juan is going to give that to us. You give us your name and title, Juan, and then we'll go ahead.
Juan Alvarez, the Mobility and Parking Director. We wanted to go over the plan that we want to have for the summer with utilizing the trams. And we use Spring Break to gather the tram data, and we'd like to go over that with you. Next slide. So we began using the tram. There were a couple of special events that we used. One of them was for the Christmas parade. We used it for a special event during the library opening. And we did some initial testing on the 28th and 30th of January, just to prep it and get it ready for spring break. Spring break ran from, we did from the 9th through April 14th. Thursday through Sunday, and then the hours that we did were 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Next slide. Now, we ran it Thursday through Sunday, but if you look at, there may be some dates that we're missing. Those dates were due to weather. So there were a total of 17 days. We picked up 156 passengers. We did an average of 8 riders per day. Next slide. So this is about the battery life that we, on the information we gathered. The average battery life that we utilized per mile was about 5.8%. The battery life utilized per hour was 12%. A lot of these numbers are very different per day. A lot of it had to do that affected it was the load, the temperature, the idle wait time. And when I say idle and wait time, during the winter, they could have been using the heater, they could have used the fans, and that would affect the battery life as well. Also, the acceleration is also a big factor that could have affected it. So the average battery life that we gathered was 4 to 6 hours per charge. So we used the raw data that we had over with our map board during our last meeting. And one of the suggestions that they had was to see how far we could expand it. One of the areas was Buffalo Lodge and Fields Park. We ran this for about 3 days. Buffalo Lodge, we ran it for 1 day, but we kept it out because it was a runtime about 45 minutes. All the way down to Buffalo Lodge to the very end, close to the Speedley lot. So we ran the next couple of days to Fields Park, and that the average loop time was about 33 minutes. And per mile, it came out to 4.9%. And per hour, we were running the battery at 20.2%. And one of the other suggestions that they had is if we can run both trams at the same time, that's the number one thing that we did to see if that was something that was possible. But when you look at the battery life, there was no way we could do it. So we decided to stay with one tram, run it for a period of 4 hours, and then go to the next tram so that we can extend that battery life and maximize it. These were some of the thoughts and feedback that we had the tram engagement in December of last year. And then we have also customer rider feedback. This is just organic data that we collected from the passengers that we picked up on the way. There's 2 of them that we already addressed. One of them was the seats were uncomfortable. So one of the things that we did, we ordered brand new seats with a cushion on them. So they're much more passengers are much more comfortable now. The other one was they didn't know that it was free. So one of the things that we did, we ordered new decals and we installed them on the front of the tram and the back of the tram saying free shuttle. Next slide. So these were some of the pros and cons. For the pros, they did find it appealing, like with the graphics and seeing it out on the road. One of the things that they enjoyed was there were no set times, no set schedule. One of the things that they also enjoyed was it was quiet, and they have the ability to load passengers on both sides of the tram. Now, on the cons, just to look at it very carefully, the battery life is very inconsistent due to the factors that we talked about earlier with the battery life, the number of passengers, because that can not only increase the battery, but it can also slightly decrease the miles per hour. So if the max is 20, so it can slightly decrease it between 15 and 18, depending on the number of passengers on board. And we're not able to use it during extreme weather, such as heavy rain, or we're not able to utilize it during anytime there's any snow. So extreme temperatures do affect the battery life. Now, one of the important things that we noticed also that if we pick up the tram at 100%, we got to take that tram back once it hits close to 25%. If we don't take it below, if it gets below that, there was a couple of times where the tram just shut off. We couldn't operate it. It took a while a couple of minutes, and then it did turn on. So we kept that percentage at 25%. As soon as it reached 25, we would go ahead and switch it off for another tram. But the other thing that we notice is if we run it at 100% and it gets to about 50, anywhere between 50 and 60%, the battery happens to charge a lot quicker. If we keep it at a higher percentage. One of the things that we also notice is it's very that it's slow. It can't go past 20 miles an hour, and it can go up steep hills. It's very challenging and it drains the battery very quick. So this is what we're looking at for the summer season route. We like to keep the same existing routes that we have at Hiawatha, Wichita, and Sminsky. We plan on keeping it from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., but that's up to change. If we see that we're not really picking up a whole lot of people at 8 a.m., we can always put the time at 10 or even 11 a.m. if depending on the ridership numbers, if there's not that many. We do plan on using it for special events. And we are hiring 3 seasonal part-timers that are going to work 24 to 30 hours. They're going to be seasonal. And currently right now we wanted to use them for Memorial Day, but because they do have to go through an extensive background check, it probably won't be until the first week of June. And because of the battery life, we do plan on running 1 tram at a time while the other one charges. And to have an efficient tram, we plan on doing it every 4 hours. So as soon as the 4 hours are up, or it gets close to the 25%, we want to take it back to Public Works, hook it back up to charge, and then utilize the second tram.
How long does it take to charge to full charge from 25%?
Overnight, if we charge it as soon as, let's just say we plug it in at 8 o'clock, by 6 a.m. the next morning, it'll be fully charged at 100%. We have a more detailed graph that we'll be using to track the summer season, which will track the weather. Will be more detailed in the information that we're gathering.
Okay, I believe Mr. Shade has a question.
Sure.
So in your presentation, you said unable to utilize the bus stops. Why is that?
One of the things that came into consideration, we do plan on looking at some of the bus stops down in between Wichita on the on-street side and also on the opposite side. One of the factors that we considered was that we didn't want to cause any confusion with Mountain Metro and their stops. But the stops that we are looking at are past Hiawatha.
Okay, so my question is, there's nothing that prohibits us from using those stops, right?
No, not at all.
Okay, so my suggestion would be, given my observation of what's going on down at Hiawatha, is there's long lines of people, and this is kind of the reason why, we got excited about these things, that we would buy them. We could kind of offload some of these passengers that are on the 33. Okay, the 33 is an incredibly popular route. Okay, and we thought, hey, we'll do something kind of fun, electric, renewable, that would be a Hiawatha to downtown kind of a shuttle. Okay, and we can kind of build on kind of this theme. I think we made a smart decision in terms of coming up with some very clever branding in the whole 9 yards. My observation when these things did run is that when they're sitting in the parking lots, people don't know what they're there for. Okay. And if you're already in the Wichita lot, you're already downtown. Okay. So I'm just asking, it doesn't seem like the public does not seem to be in the least bit confused at Hiawatha with the number 3, the number 36. Okay. That's over on the avenue, and the number 33 at that stop. And that area on Old Man's Trail is quite long. And it doesn't seem like to me that's a really big burden. It just seems like we have constructed something in which we're shuttling people from parking lot to parking lot. And I just don't recall that was what our intent was to get you from Hiawatha to the Schmishny lot. I've never known anybody in this town that needed to get from those 2 parking lots. and that we would basically spend $100,000 and all this operational cost to do that. So I would really suggest, I like the fact that we got free on there. I think they need to be on the bus stop, okay, at Hiawatha. I think they need to be stopping at all the stops downtown. We've got a sign shop. We can put signs that say downtown shuttle, a cute little picture of it. My gosh, the branding is absolutely cuter than anything, okay? A little picture with the route and the whole 9 yards. So that's just my suggestion. I just was trying to make sure that there was some, not some legal or some regulatory issue with us, you know, utilizing those stops.
Yeah, because
Sorry,
we-
Mr. Graham, for droning.
Yeah, John, we did look at that, and we also discussed possibly taking away eight parking spots like on the on-street side, so that we can also utilize in between the three lots. We can utilize some of those some of those spaces so that they can possibly use them as a drop off. And to go back on the decision of why we made this, you know, these three stops, this was taken to our map board, and this was collectively the recommendation to use these three lots.
I watched all those meetings. I do not recall that discussion in that map board that they said to shuttle from three lots. So it's just my suggestion. We get these things on the street and the bus stops where everybody else is used to boarding and unboarding, and that we not be pulling into these parking lots as if we're shuttling people from three downtown lots. All these people are perfectly capable of navigating the parking lot, paying for their parking, getting to the bus stop. Okay, and I just don't see why we're allocating more space and more time getting them in the lot, getting them turned around in the lot, and the whole 9 yards in and out. That just seems like that's more up and down hills and everything else. Just put them on the main avenue, leave them on the main avenue. That's my suggestion. Okay, thank you.
Mayor,
Thank you. Denise?
if council approves that and if everybody agrees, we'll definitely try it and we'll look at it and we'll come back if it doesn't work. I do want to mention, part of what we did for the parking lot is because the ADA would go out into the street. We now are making it where it's to the right, and if they have an ADA, we see somebody with a wheelchair, we'll make sure that we meet that need. So that was part of the issue, was that ADA went out into the street, but we're trying to manage that in a different way.
So
that
to clarify, we did rearrange those doors, right? So that basically you cannot
Right.
get out in traffic.
Right, yep,
Okay.
yep,
And
we
so that is
rearranged that.
great. And I can see how that would be a safety consideration
Yeah.
when it was configured that way. But if now those doors are essentially blocked so that you cannot pop the
Right.
door open and get out in traffic, then I think this is perfect for us to just use the bus stops, get the signage correct on the avenue so that people see where they are. But I think them hiding in the lots, I think is just going to really reduce kind of the use of them and the attractiveness of them. They're just basically hiding in the parking lots, and I don't think people understand why in the world are they lurking around in the parking lots. Thank you.
Yeah, that makes sense, but that was the main reason, was due to the ADA, but we can definitely change that.
Thank you. Michelle?
One, which 8 parking spots are you possibly removing on Manitou Avenue?
So there would be, one of them would be by Wichita. The other one would possibly be by, around the Ruxton roundabout, around that area. And then it would circle back to, the Hiawatha lot was the original plan.
Okay, did I hear that you might be removing 8?
We were looking at that. So in between the three lots, there'd be 2 sections on the right side, you know, for people to get off on the restaurants. But then if people want to go back, then we would also put them on the opposite side of the street so that when they're ready, they can wait there. And then on the way back to Hiawatha, they can pick them up and take them back to the lot.
Well, just a second. Let's give Julie a chance.
I just wanted to go back. I guess, do we need a motion to rearrange
No,
this?
no, just-
Procedurally, I was just trying to understand, like, how many people park their car how many people park their car in Hiawatha and they say, hi, I'm here because I'd really like to go to the Smishny lot? Like, I just don't understand who would want to visit all the parking lots in town. Like, if they're not that pretty or enjoyable, like what, it just doesn't make sense to me. So that, I couldn't understand why that, and I've had people ask me that, and then as you know, there's stuff on Facebook complaining like, oh, city council, here they go again. They're always just, trying to help the tourists. But I thought, well, it's not even helping tourists. Tourists don't want to go visit all the parking lots. So I just didn't understand that. The other thing is, I don't want to lose the 8 parking spots on Manitou Avenue if we don't have to. And it sounds like we don't have to. It sounds like we just use the bus stops that are already there. They're not, it's not like there's cooties and we're going to get like germs if we park there. I mean, what the heck? Just pull in and use the parking spot. That way people will know, oh, this is a bus stop. And then the shuttle will show up and they'll say, oh, wow. Oh, you're going here. Oh, good. I'll jump on. So I think that would be a good way I think it would at least be worth an experiment. I also had a question about the hiring of the people doing the driving. At one time, I thought I was informed that, not during council meeting, but just scuttlebutt, that we were going to be contracting out and hiring a company to do the driving. Is that no longer the case, that you're doing all this individual vetting and everything?
We were planning to contract it out and they will no longer do the insurance, et cetera. So we have to do it through us and use our insurance and sources. So we have to do the background check, the drug test and all of that. Initially, we were able to contract it out, and that company and other companies have said they'll no longer do that due to the liability. So that's why we're a little bit behind the 8 ball with this one, because that came unexpected. So that's, we're managing it. So what I'm hearing from council is that we'll go ahead and use the bus stops at this point. We'll manage that, and then we'll, provide feedback. If there needs to be change, we'll come back and say, hey, this is what we're seeing. And if not, we'll try it this year and get feedback and then go from there.
Okay, can I have another question?
Yeah, go ahead, Julie, and then John.
I also wanted to know, so let's say you've charged the shuttle all night and now you take it out in the morning. What time or how many hours until, let's assuming it's not raining and it's not snowing and it's not, 20 degrees out. In the summer, how long would the battery last before it gets down to the 25% point where you have to pull it off the road?
It depends on the number of passengers. The number of passengers is a big factor because of the weight that the shuttle's not carrying.
So let's say if it's in the summer and let's say that's full, if it were full.
If it was full, it'd probably be close to between 3 and 4 hours, but 4 hours, it would be the maximized amount of hours.
Okay, and then when you pull it off after 3 or 4 hours, how long until it's fully charged again?
Well, that's one of the things I mentioned earlier, that if we let it get down to about 25%, it does take a while for it to charge. I would take 2-3 hours, like, to get it back to about around 80%. But if we return it where it's 40 to 60%, it tends to charge the battery a lot quicker.
Say that again, what, 60%, what?
If let's just say, instead of letting it go down to 25%, we see that it's at 50 or 60%, we can at that time take it back to Public Works, plug it in, and it tends to charge up a lot quicker.
Like in 2 hours or like the next day? I'm just trying to figure out
Couple hours.
I'm just trying to figure out, because I haven't really heard, and I didn't, if it was in the packet, it went over my head. But I haven't seen, like, how are you going to coordinate? We have 2 different vehicles.
Right.
Is there a way that you're going to work on staggering them so that you can charge one while the other one is still in use? Is that what's happening? Because all I heard is, oh, we plug it in at night and it's good in the morning. That
No.
doesn't really answer the question about during the day.
Monitoring the battery charge. So as soon as it starts getting low, and let's just say we're at 4 hours, we're gonna take it back and plug it in. If it's at 40%, great, because it can charge the battery a lot quicker. But we try to keep both of them fully charged.
So you could theoretically continue to run them for 24 hours a day by switching them off this way, is what I understand. In other words, you'll be able to charge the next one up before the other one runs out of power. Is that right? You'll be able to keep staggering it?
We just have, we have to manage the battery. And there's a lot of determining factors on that.
So you're not sure if you could stagger it because it just depends on too many things?
Counselor, well, there's things that we don't know right now, right? We've just got these. We are good. This summer is a lot of testing. And so your questions are great, but I'm going to tell you, we don't have all the details yet. So give us this summer and then we'll be able to come out and come back and say, here's what we know, here's what happened, and go from there. So lots of questions we just don't have answers to.
Okay. And then is there such a thing as buying a more powerful battery and sticking it in the shuttle?
We actually have the best battery that's available for it.
And we have the fastest charging method, I guess, just plugging it in.
You just plug it in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Julie, also the one thing that I wanted to respond to, the whole idea is not to go lot to lot, but it's to get them closer to the restaurants. It's getting them closer to like the park if they wish to go to the park. It wasn't necessarily just to go from lot to lot.
Okay.
Just a second, John. Natalie has a question. She hasn't had a chance to speak yet. So Natalie?
Yeah, so I am in agreement that we use the Mountain Metro stops, certainly. I think that's a good idea. And I also just want to start, I mean, I know we're in a testing phase, but I think it is one of those things where I think we all had a vision of what these could do, and it's not quite living up to that. And so I don't know if it's one of those things where we look at, selling them at the end of the year, or we look at purchasing 2 more. Like what do we need to do to kind of, create the vision we want for this mobility opportunity? Because I feel like we're all kind of a little disappointed in where we are right now. And it's not anybody's fault. We're just trying to figure things out. And then again, just a reminder that the lodging properties, when they got together, they really wanted the trams to be able to get out to those lodging properties to help pick up and drop off as well. So just, again, another opportunity that I don't know that we're capable of it based on the information we have. And I understand our limitations, but just how do we get to where we want to be is kind of my question. And I'm not quite sure I know what that is today. So I wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to Natalie's thing. I totally agree with you, Natalie. I think what we found is the parametrics with this is that they're really good for this little run downtown. That's just the nature of it. We knew that these were short order. We were even thinking last year that they were going to come in before the end of the year, and they didn't, and the whole 9 yards. So I think from the standpoint of Natalie's things, and I totally concur, is that I think we ought to be looking for maybe some other vehicles that give us a little more range. Okay. We know that we've got the Dillon coming online. We'd probably like to really tie the lodging properties on the east end and the URA back into the downtown area. So we probably need another vehicle. These probably, smells like to me, these aren't the right ones for that particular thing, but I think they're probably pretty good for just doing this downtown thing.
Correct.
I have another question for you. You
Sure.
said rain. What's the problem with the rain?
Well, it's mostly like with snow, when it starts,
Okay.
it makes the road slippery and they're
Okay,
not able to
all right.
hang.
Yeah, and I don't think we were all that terribly worried about snow in terms of, I'm just trying to figure out operationally for this summer
Mhm.
that they will operate in the rain, right?
They should, right? No
Okay,
problem.
okay.
Yeah.
The other thing too, and I think it was a con and I can't find it, but I think it's a pro, that these things don't go faster than 20 miles an hour. I think that is
We've talked
actually
about that.
wonderful. We should not be having any vehicles, okay, past Old Man's Trail. They're going faster than 20 miles an hour. Okay, we have lots of pedestrians on the street, and these things should not be going more than 20 miles an hour. So I think if that was in the con, that needs to be moved to the pro list. Thank you.
Yeah, no, the reason that was mentioned, John, is because in the Manitou corridor, it is 20 miles an hour, but once we start expanding the area outside, let's just say from Chase Bank East, then it does go up to 30 miles an hour, and now you are slowing traffic.
Right. And I
Correct.
guess what I'm saying is, I think that's another vehicle.
Mhm.
Okay.
Right.
All right. I think that's I think what our learning experience with this was, we wanted to get, like Natalie said, early start. I think the branding is really genius. I think it's very clever. Okay. It says Manitou all over the place. I have to admit, the only thing I probably don't like about it is the fact that the windows and the branding obscures the people who are writing it. And I think to a certain extent, people like to see almost kind of like an open air thing and like to see other people on it. And when you can't see inside, I think that's maybe we kind of over branded it in terms of obscuring the windows and whatnot, because I think that helps people go, oh gosh, there are other people on these things, as opposed to just some unit running around and you can't figure out who's on it or anybody's on it and anybody's having fun and that kind of thing. So I just go back to the fact that I think we ought to really step up and figure out, so that this time next year, when we're bringing the Dillon online, hopefully this time next year, that we have, like Natalie says, adequate shuttle, okay, stuff. Hopefully they're electric, and they're probably not going to be these things here. You know, we probably need to step up our game here. And like you say, they might need to be, you know, speedier than 20 miles an hour. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Judith, did you have comments?
Thank you, Mayor. Most of my comments were already addressed. I had, my number one question was also the bus stops and the parking lots, so that was resolved. I know that the application of the decals stating that the shuttles were free were applied a little late in the game, so I'll be looking to see if that helps. My question to you is, what other marketing are we doing to encourage people to utilize the new shuttles, other than the free decals on the bus? Or is it on our Facebook page? How are we marketing this?
Well, we do have it on our city website, and we do plan on putting it on social media to just expand the messaging.
Okay, so other than just the decals on the bus and the city website, which I don't know that many of our tourists would be utilizing, and perhaps the bus stops, that's our marketing strategy for now.
Well, we are looking at signage, but before that, we did want to bring it to the board to make sure to open it up for judgments, just like John did, and get everybody's input before we start allocating signage and looking at the locations where we want to put that.
Thank you. And I also just wanted to weigh in. I also agreed with Councillor Johnson. I think it would be really a remarkable thing if down the road we can figure out a way to incorporate getting people that are lodging here to utilize the trams and incentivize people to stay here and lodge here for that reason. So my last question was regarding the drivers. I know I've heard and from other communities that it's been really difficult to hire drivers. It's my understanding you don't need a chauffeur's level license to drive these, or do you? Do you have to have what's the licensure requirement, and how, what's the hiring process for temporary drivers, and is that going to be a potential issue for us with regards to finding drivers?
We actually did receive a good pool of very good pool of candidates that we interviewed. We selected the people that we wanted in that first week. All of them have a Class B license, and a Class B license is under it's under 14.
I'm sorry.
So all the candidates have a Class B license.
Could you explain? I don't know what that means. Class B versus Class C.
Class B is operating a passenger bus with 15 or more passengers.
I see. And did you say that the drivers were already hired? Did I hear you say that?
We selected them. They're still going through their background check at this point.
I see. And it's my understanding that bus drivers have to pass a drug test. Is that true?
Correct. That's one of their tests.
Okay, thank you. So we're looking at $1,200 a week for the 3 drivers. So we're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of like maybe like 33 to 35,000 for the season, for the high season. Is that about right?
That's approximate, correct.
Okay, that's all I've got. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Other council questions? Okay, just, I do have a couple of things. As I think back when we talked about this, we were looking at one of the great advantages I think we saw in this, and I continue to see it, is that we have flexibility as opposed to Mountain Metro, which once they set the route, you're basically casting concrete for another 6 months or something like that. So here we have the flexibility to respond to things that are actually going on. If we have a beer fest or a wine fest, we can do the most expedient things. So I would like to see us have the flexibility to do some common sense kinds of things and use this efficiently and wisely. I do like the comment about making a point that the motels see this as an effective service, so that we can move people, from motels without having them to use without them having to use cars. So I think that's kind of what you're getting for.
And the important thing is that the more we can get them to park in the lots, the more it opens up the downtown area. ADA, it opens up the ADA stalls, and it just opens up the parking for especially directly the residents. If we can keep visitors like parking in the lots and getting them out of their vehicle and utilizing the tram, I feel it's a big plus.
Great, thank you, Juan. Julie, do you have something?
Yeah, actually, because we were told previously that there can be up to 12 months waiting period before you can get a shuttle once you've ordered it. It seems to me that we may want to get this on the agenda soon to see if the staff can research a shuttle for us to purchase that would be able to go 30 miles an hour, and perhaps one that it might require us to have more passengers within the shuttle. It may be a slightly larger shuttle, but I'd love to get some information from you all on what's available out there and what you think might be appropriate, so that we can take a look at that when we are at budget review time.
In one.
Is that okay?
Okay, sure.
Just to
let's-
get some
Well,
info.
let's see what Denise.
Mayor,
has.
I already sent that out, so we will be coming back. I will say it's probably not going to be a total electric vehicle, but we'll do the research to see if we can do that. I don't know. I know Mountain Metro has said that they can't do total electric to meet the needs, but we'll do research and see if it's and what there is. I know they've looked at a hybrid at one point, and that's an option of a hybrid little cutout, kind of like what Mountain Metro did and other things. So we'll be bringing it back. We'll do the research and get back with you.
Great, thanks. And that reminds me that, I remember Mountain Metro said that they had 4 battery buses and they had problems. They struggled to keep them on the road. And then I think the company that made them went bankrupt. So it's experimental. I like the idea of the electric vehicles, but we're at a point where in a test and sort of research phase while we get used to this. Sorry.
Well, and, I'm sorry.
We just want to think too, Juan, I was going to say, we just have the charger for these up at the Public Works. Do we have plans to put in another charger?
Once we have the map, our new map building, we will instill them there too. But right now, we have the place to get them both charged at the same time.
Okay, are those
He
like
means the
220
Chase-
chargers?
You mean the Chase building, not the Maps
The Chase building.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah, Chase. Well, okay, I was guessing that's what it was. Okay, are those 220 chargers or
110.
what?
It's-
Oh, 110. Oh,
Yeah, they're just, it's a regular plug-in, and it takes about 6 to 8 hours to get a fully charged tram.
okay. I've got an electric car and that's a painful way to do it, a 110 versus a 220. So,
Right.
maybe if we find a more efficient way to charge, that would be another thing to put on the experimentation list. And I'm sorry, and Judy?
Yeah,
Judy,
I'm
did you-
sorry. I
No,
just
that's
wanted
good.
to ask you, Mayor, I mean, it seems to me like maybe we should be looking at a hybrid so we don't run into this problem of everything falls apart once the battery dies, or it's too cold for the battery to last more than 45 minutes or whatever. Maybe we should see if we can have some hybrid options presented to us as well when we look at all the choices.
Yeah, that's a possibility. And I think hybrids where their strength is for the, at low speed, you're using the electric, assuming you've got enough battery charge. So it's that start stop, which is, exactly what we're doing here on the street, low speed. So we would be using the battery primarily as long as it's charged, but we'd always be able to fall back on the gas or, whatever the fossil fuel is.
We'll do some research and present it to everyone.
Okay, well, it actually sounds kind of fun.
Mhm.
Any other comments from council? Okay, well, this was informational, so thank you, Juan. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Great. Have fun with the cars, the trams.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's see, we'll get down to business. Item H1, first reading of ordinance number 0424, an ordinance of the city of Manitou Springs, Colorado, approving a franchise agreement with Colorado Springs Utilities, granting the right to provide, sell, and deliver natural gas and electricity to the city and its residents. And I will mention that we had expected to see Bill Block, our representative from Colorado Springs Utilities here tonight, but I understand he's sick. But Denise, if you'd like to lead off with this.
Sure, yeah. CSU was planning to be here tonight, but I got a text that they were not able to due to an illness. But as you know, we've been working this for probably the last 12 plus months. I believe we're bringing to you a good agreement. That's a 20-year agreement. And one of the highlights with this is we'll be working on over the next 2 years, an undergrounding plan together to present to council in the next couple of years. So would entertain questions that you may have. Unfortunately, our attorney is not here tonight, nor is CSU, so I will do my best to answer if you have questions. Otherwise, I would request a motion to move forward.
Do we have any comments or questions from council? And for the benefit of the public, I'll say that we've had a couple executive sessions on this, so council has had a chance to become educated on this. Anything from council? Okay, I guess not. So I would make a motion that we accept the agreement with CSU as presented.
I'll second.
Is this first reading?
This is first reading, yes.
I move approval on first reading.
I'll second.
Okay. We'll give Mr. Shada the second. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, let's vote. Counselor Chandler, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Counselor Johnson?
Yes.
The motion carries unanimously.
Okay. Are you okay with that, Julie?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted.
No lights showed up
Yeah.
until after the announcement.
Okay. Okay, all right. So motion passed unanimously. Okay. Congratulations to staff. I think that's, we have a very, very good, agreeable franchise agreement. It's 20 years in scope, and it includes directives for the Colorado Springs Utilities to work with the city of Manitou Springs to come up with a plan to bury the overhead utilities by the end of the 20 years. So it's a long road, but we're going to get started. We're going to do it. Okay, I'm proud of this council for doing it. It's been talked about a lot, but we're going to get it going. Very good. Thank you. Next item is requesting approval for a right-of-way transfer from El Paso County. Denise, would you like to speak? Or
Jillian.
Jillian,
Okay.
yeah, I'm sorry. Jillian, yes, okay.
Good evening, Jillian Rossi, Parks and Recreation Director for the City of Manitou Springs. So the right-of-way transfer request refers to a request for a section of Manitou Avenue to be transferred back to the city of Manitou Springs from El Paso County per the completion of the WAP project, the West Side Avenue Action Plan, per an original quitclaim deed signed back in February 2015. So essentially, the right-of-way, if approved, would be transferred back to the city of Manitou Springs. And it's from the arch, the historic Manitou Springs Arch, on the east side of town to the Highway 24 interface. That's the section that's being referenced. Any questions?
Thank you. Questions from council? Or a comment from Denise?
Mayor, can I just add, the reason why
Sure.
we're doing this is to get that project completed, we had to borrow money from the county and it's now paid off through our PPRTA this year. And so now that it's paid off, this was kind of the collateral until we got paid off and now they want us to bring it back. So it's a pretty easy agreement. We just need your approval to move forward and then we'll get this completed.
Okay, thank you. That's a good point. And I guess it's my understanding we've been continuing to do the maintenance and so forth, so we won't see really any change there. Yeah, go ahead, Julie.
So Denise, so this was collateral?
Yeah, that's basically what it was they had it until we got the loan paid off. And now that the loan is paid off with them, then we bring it back. So yes.
I'm surprised they would consider that collateral.
Well, this was 2015. So that was numerous years ago. And this is the agreement that they
Wow.
made. So,
Okay,
yeah.
I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from council? Guess not. Okay. So, guess we need a motion.
I move approval.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, let's vote.
Well, it asked me to vote for you twice.
Counselor Johnson,
Yes.
Counselor Chandler,
I'm a yes.
motion carries unanimously.
Great. Okay, thank you. Well, that concludes the agenda items for business. Next, receive or act on council correspondence. Thank you, Jillian. Appreciate it. Okay, good job. Do we have anything from council? Michelle?
There's been concern on Manitou Avenue as we're entering the high season that the trash dumpsters are not being picked up. So trash is on the sidewalks and not in the containers. Thank you.
You mean the city trash containers? Okay, the city trash containers. Okay, thank you. Julie?
I had a complaint that the motorcycles are so loud, and even when they drive past the police station, there's no enforcement of the noise ordinance. And I was actually there at one point when I couldn't believe how loud it was. I had never heard a motorcycle that loud, but it doesn't seem we have any police enforcement for that. And I don't know how that would work, if it's because they're too busy or they don't have the I don't even know if they have the noise decibel measuring machine. Do they? They have it? I don't know if they ever use it. But anyway, I have experienced it myself, but I've also gotten some complaints that the noise from the motorcycles is offensive, and why aren't the police doing anything? That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Oh, Mr. Shada?
Yeah, the other thing that it seems like I'm getting a lot of phone calls on is this new developing thing on Sunday, starting at about 4 o'clock with all this loud kind of cruising up and down the avenue. An awful lot of these vehicles, I was really surprised as I was observing it for like 2 hours, must not have some kind of catalytic converter because these vehicles are like got a lot of smoke coming out of them. It is very polluted downtown. It's very noisy. Okay. Doesn't appear like this is anybody who's coming to town looking for parking. They're just driving through town, congesting stuff. I have one picture in which people were trying to cross the crosswalk at Old Man's Trail. And as far as you could see east was this line of all of these vehicles. And it just, I was looking to just see what, CML said about this problem. And apparently Colorado Springs has been having this problem downtown in terms of at night and whatnot. But it just seems like on Sunday from 4 until 7 p.m. or whatever, there's just a lot of, in my opinion, really needless automobile traffic downtown. And it's not like people are coming town to go to an art gallery or a museum or shopping or doing anything else. They're just driving around. And I just don't know. And it's noisy and it's very polluting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just a second, let's see. Judith?
Thank you, Mayor. I wasn't going to bring up the motorcycle thing, but since it was already brought up, that same situation is also starting to occur again on El Paso and Beckers. The loud motorcycles, they seem to be going up Beckers and through the garden, so it must be a problem in the Garden of the Gods as well. I got a phone call yesterday from an environmentalist who I know who resides in Colorado Springs, but is frequently in Manitou. And this individual called me regarding their concern about the sealant that was being applied to the Hiawatha Gardens parking lot. And this person's issue wasn't the sealant itself, but I was informed, and I didn't know this prior, that many communities provide a barrier of some kind, a buffer between if you're going to apply chemicals that can potentially wash off into a waterway. And this person's concern was Fountain Creek. And brought that to my attention. And I'm just the messenger, because it never occurred to me before this conversation that we need to potentially be looking at providing some kind of low cost absorbent barrier when we're applying products. I don't know what the weather is like in Manitou, but this person told me rain was in the forecast and they were really concerned about runoff into Fountain Creek. So I bring that up just so we can have a conversation for future applications or anything that we're doing close to Fountain Creek, where we need to prepare a barrier so that we can absorb anything that might go into the creek. So just wanted to FYI.
Great, thank you. Very good. See, Natalie, do you have anything? Okay. Michelle, Nancy? Yeah, I guess, oh, I'm sorry. Julie, you did have something more, didn't you?
Out of one other thing, I would like to see the sign ordinance enforced. The big signs that are posted at the library by the contractor, way up on the hill there above Pilot Knob. There's a huge sign on an oversized, super big dumpster that's been there for months. That says black with white lettering, Best Way. I see it every time I look out my window at the beautiful mountain. So I don't think those signs are legal under our code, but I don't think we're enforcing the code when it comes to signs. And I think that we shouldn't be violating our own ordinances by authorizing these big signs at property that we own, such as at the library. All those advertising signs need to come down. Either that or we need to change the law. I would rather not change the law, but I'd like to see something done about them. I don't think it's right for us to expect our own residents to obey the law if we're not even willing to obey the law. It's not right.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Oh, and just notice, and I think I mentioned this last week, but we will not have a meeting next week. So that'll be the day after Memorial Day. So I guess if you want to party Memorial Day, you can party as late as you want, because there will be no council meeting to follow. All the way to Tuesday night, right? Very good. Denise, do you have anything from the city administrator's office?
Nope. I think I've sent you several of you with some updates. So I think I don't have anything at this time. Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, that said, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
Move we adjourn.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion is second. Let's vote. Counselor Chandler,
Voice call.
I'm a yes.
you want a voice vote?
Yeah, the internet's not working.
Okay, hang on. Counselor Johnson,
Yes.
everybody else, say aye.
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 Thank
Any
you.
opposed? Okay, great. We're adjourned. Thank you.